Yay, it's working. Yay. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1852. New mystery, no clues. What's next? So yesterday we shared the exciting news that we had solved a mystery. And what we're going to do next was start working on the next one. So I went to my matches where there are trees that supposedly connect to find out that the one tree that I did pick and I filled out the pedigree chart for doesn't actually fully connect to my tree. Like when they are truly connected, it will show you what the relatives are that you have in common. Well, this didn't happen on this one, but I filled out the pedigree chart based on the information that they had and started researching, and I can't find any information. Like, I can find zero information on one portion of the branch. And so I'm like at a total loss. Now, I know that this person's maternal great-grandfather was born in Australia, cannot find his birth record. I've got the place that he was born. I've got the actual date. Can't find that was listed on her site. Can't find any record of it. Nothing. Zero. Like, it's not even registered. And as far as information goes on her maternal great-grandmother, and we're talking about the maternal. So we've gone from this person to their mother, to their maternal grandmother, to that maternal grandmother's parents. Can't find anything. I can find the tombstone for the maternal great-grandmother, and the reason that this tombstone is so special is she lived to be 108 years old. So you'd think you'd be able to find a little information about somebody who's 108, that there might have been a newspaper article about her, and she died in New Zealand. So that's sort of like, okay, we've got to find some. There's no death record. There's no marriage record. And because of the year she was born, it is well before New Zealand started keeping records. So there's zero records on that one for the birth. No records on her marriage. Cannot find any records for her marriage in Australia. So I'm not sure if he came over here and then met her, or although I can find her on one register, which indicates that she was here in New Zealand, maybe about the time. No, actually, not even about the time that they met, because this would have been a lot of years later, because women were not allowed on electoral rolls. So I'm sort of like, well, where do I go next? So we're starting with the Scottish side of the family. Her maternal grandfather was born in Scotland, so I figured, let's start there. We can find a little more information about that. I mean, even the little green leaves that come up on Ancestry haven't even appeared for her maternal grandmother's side of the family. Nothing. But on her maternal grandfather's side of the family, we've got a couple of leaves, just a couple of leaves, not like one that says that there's like 11 hints or 23 hints, just 2. So I'm like, and I know at least one of them will be somebody else's version of a family tree. And yes, I do use those as hints and tips of where to go and find more information. So then I thought, well, what other information can I find? Where can I go next? What else can I look at? So I started off with my regular birth, deaths, marriages information. Nothing. Zero. And I'm like, okay. So I tried newspapers. Nothing. Zero. Not even when this woman turned 100 years old, and she was 108 when she passed. I mean, that's newsworthy back in that time in New Zealand. People did not live that long. She was born in 1823 and died in 1931. I mean, that was unheard of. 108. Nothing in the newspapers. Absolutely zero about this person. I'm just like, wow, that's really unusual. But I keep digging. I keep going. So then I started just doing searches on Ancestry, just going into Ancestry and doing searches on there. And they have a place where they have a button that says search on Ancestry, and it will go through all of the records that it can find, and you tell them what country. So I had them look in Australia, then I had them look in New Zealand. Zero records came up. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And the only ones that came up were the family trees. But even the family trees, when I looked at those, had zero resources. Not one of the family trees that I've looked at so far have any resources to confirm how they got this information, which tells me that this information has been passed down through generations and may sort of kind of be correct. As far as finding legal stuff goes, haven't been able to find it. I've even been on the archive site, the National Archives site, can't find anything there. New Zealand, when it comes to finding some records, is but they're pretty open on some things, but some things are a little closer. But even not, I couldn't even find an article that said, yes, we have records on this, but to see it, you have to be in person. I've even been looking for those records. No online records. No, like I said, the only thing I can find is other family trees that other family members have posted. So I've been taking notes from those family trees and going in. Zero resources. They have got zero sources for where they got this information. I thought, even if you get it from somebody verbally, you at least put a source in there that this was the person that you spoke to on this date and this was the information they gave you. We're talking about keeping track of all the places you go, all the things that you look at, why it is so important to cite your sources. This is why it is important, so that when this information comes up and people can't find anything online, they can only find this tree. You can at least put a source in there to say that you had a verbal interview with this particular person and the information came from them. At least it's a source. You may not be able to contact that person again. They may have since passed on, but you've got a source that this was information from a conversation had on this particular date with this particular person. And you just keep track of all of those conversations, but nothing. And I've been through like 4 or 5 family trees, all got the same information, all have zero resources. And I'm just like, this is so weird. But on the Scottish side, which is the maternal grandfather side, we're finding a couple of records here and there. So that's where I'm at looking at this one. No clues. So what do? You start looking in unusual places. I've been looking for, the newspaper, I was looking at like land deeds. Was there any information on land deeds? Because usually back in the 1800s, if people were buying and selling land, it was put into the newspaper as a thing of interest. I was even looking for, did they have birth announcements for children? Did they have wedding announcements? Nothing. So I've been combing those sorts of resources as well, looking for any court cases. Found some different documentation online on the National Archives site, but because this person's name the husband's name is very common, it turned out to be very common. I don't know which one I'm looking at. So I'm just sort of like at a loss. And even when I go into the birth, deaths, and marriages, I put like the family name, like his last name, I put in there. I put the dates, and I have to be very selective on the dates, because if I go, it will tell me that I've hit the max of 500. And so I need to refine my searches. In some cases, you have to do that. And I didn't think this was a very common name, but it turns out it is a very common name. So even in the 20-year span I had, it hit over 500. So it hit the 500, said, yeah. So I had to kind of narrow it down as best I could on best guesses. But I used the daughter's birth date as a date to do that with, or birth year. I still did a 10-year time span, did a 20-year time span, and managed to find, and got in there and found this guy's name there, but the wife's name, when it had the mother's name, completely different. Didn't even look anything like what I had. And the children's names that were listed, none of them matched the children that I have on the list that I've gotten from this person's tree. So I'm just at a loss for that side of the family. But like I said, on the other side, we've got a couple of hints that we can follow up with. But it just means it's going to take a little more finding things, and I'm going to have to look a little deeper into Australia, into where were they from? Victoria and Australia. Look a little deeper into that. Maybe even look into New South Wales, where Sydney is. But in Victoria, you've got Melbourne there. So I'm going to look a little more into those records, look a little more into New South Wales, see what other records I can find, see if I can find shipping information for whether he came across or whether she went over to Australia, because she was very definitely born in New Zealand. I can tell that by her ethnicity. It's just finding those other places, even looking for immigration records into New Zealand with him coming in on a ship. I may not be able to find records of him leaving Australia, but I might be able to find records of him arriving in New Zealand. So there's those as well. And then how do I know that that's the right person, since there's several with this thing? And there's even, and some of these, and with this particular name that he has, for how common it is, there's military records, which unfortunately do not list birth dates or who next of kin are. It's more medical records on one of them. And I found a couple of others and no birth dates. I do have his birth date and his place, and because he was Australian, I'm not sure if he would be actually Australian military. I haven't looked at that one yet. So let me go look at the Australian military. But I'm like thinking, no, he would have been in New Zealand at that time for any World War I stuff, given his age. But then he may have aged out and not been eligible for World War I, given his age at the time. So there's all these sorts of questions that are coming up, and it's like thinking, where else can I go? What can I look at next? What other records can I see that's online? You know, it might be, I do have a message into this person on the DNA match through Ancestry, but it depends how often do they go onto Ancestry and check their messages. Actually, when did I last? Let me have a quick look here. No, I don't have any messages showing. I don't have any new messages that I can see. Come on, give me the top bit. There we go. No, I've only got all the messages I sent out, so I haven't had anything come back yet. But this person is supposedly on my paternal side. I can't find any of the names that she has mentioned in her tree on my paternal side. I'm also looking on my, and when I go and look on the tree, I just type in the name, and it will look at my maternal side, my paternal side, all the micro trees. It looks at every name that is listed underneath that one tree, whether it's a micro tree, whether it's the main tree, whether it's paternal, whether it's maternal. It doesn't matter. It looks at every name, because I sometimes have to stop and look and go, okay, I think that's my mother-in-law's side of the tree. I think that's my dad's side of the tree. And some of them I've got to go down and kind of guess. And I go and have a look and go, yep, that's definitely mother-in-law's one. So I've got to go back and look at the list again. Thankfully, when you click on a name, it puts the tree over here, but leaves the searches up. So you can say, oh, no, that's not the right one. Let's try this one. And of course, when it brings up one person, if they've got children with the same last name, now you know which ones to skip. And there's one I was looking at the other day, and it had 128 people with that same last name. And I was like, oh, because I didn't have a first name at the time for that particular one. And so I was like, ooh, okay, what other information do I have on this family with a person that I can go and look at? Didn't have anybody. Okay. So, yeah, so none of these names appear in my tree anywhere. So it's going to be an interesting look. This one's going to be interesting. And I'm hoping that they don't take too long to get back to me. But if they haven't got back to me within, by the end of the week, I'm going to put this one aside and move on to the next one. My goal is to try and get all of the DNA matches that I have for second and third, maybe fourth cousins completed by the end of the year. So we're doing pretty well. It's this is a possible second or third cousin that I'm working on right now. And it's supposed to be on my dad's side of the family. So we will keep you posted on how this one goes. And the cool part is that I can then go into my tree. Once I have confirmed who they are, I can go into their DNA match, and then I can go link to tree, and I can find where they are on my tree, and I can connect, and I can press the little button that makes them connect, and it puts a little DNA symbol on their name to show that we actually have a DNA match, which is kind of cool when you can actually get to do that, because you got some information correct if you found them on the tree. That's the only thing I can think of. But then again, the records are only as good as those that get put in there. And that's why it's so important to go in and check and have more than one resource in there if you're going to put information in there. And I'm putting notes in there saying, I got this information from this area over here. I'm looking at it for hints and tips. Wanting, trying to figure out where it fits into my tree, blah, 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 and putting information in my tree that does that. And so yeah, we'll see where that goes and see how it goes, and we'll keep you guys posted on this particular search for a second or third cousin paternal side. But given the last one where the third cousin was actually on my maternal side, I'm not ruling out that side either. But of course, the names don't appear anywhere in the tree. So until I can find those names in the tree or find a link to another name that's already in the tree, it's going to be on a micro tree for now. And then it'll get linked in once we get all the bits and pieces put into place. So we're now onto a new search, a new mystery. We may, by the end of the week, be onto another mystery, because depending on how we go with this one, we'll see how the Scottish stuff goes. But of course, them finding that Scottish person who married the New Zealand person, can't even find them on the marriage listing either. I've looked at the marriage records for the daughter and the heck is that? That's stuff on my thing. For the daughter and the Scottish guy that she got married to, can't find any information. None whatsoever. None. Zero. Can't even find the birth record for their daughter, who was born in New Zealand. Can't even find that one. So this is going to be a very challenging one. And when I get hold of her, I'm going to see if I can find information on her father's side of the family, just in case the connection's over there and not even on her mother's side. So we'll like I said, we'll keep you posted. And this is why I like it's mysteries. I love mysteries. It's like a big puzzle. Genealogy is a puzzle that will never, ever, ever be resolved. You can work on the genealogy tree for as long as you like. You are never going to complete it. Simply, and the reason you're never going to complete it is that there are places where there are missing records due to human error, being wars or people getting pissed off and destroying documents. Like I know of one friend who was clearing out her mother's house, came across all these certificates, like birth certificates, deaths, didn't know who any of the people were, so dumped the whole lot. And I was sort of like having a heart attack when she told me that one. To having natural disasters, like, fires. Well, fires could be either side. But things being destroyed by war, by fires, by tsunamis, by floods, blown away with tornadoes, hurricanes. Time is a big one, because some documents may not have been archived safely at the time, and so they've deteriorated and can no longer be read and fallen apart. It also depends what material that they were written on. They may have gotten brittle and just somebody tried to pick them up and they just disintegrated. So there's going to be holes. And if anybody turns around and says, oh, I've gone all the way back to here and found all of the records and everything else, yeah, I would double check that one. Simply because time is our biggest enemy when it comes to genealogy and records, because time can make records very brittle, and if they're not looked after carefully, they can disintegrate and just turn to ash, turn to dust, whatever. There's been stuff that's been written on stone, and you can no longer read the stones because time and weather has worn it away, and things like that too. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for things, that there may be holes in research. And I know that in the US military records, that because of the filing system they have, they can tell you exactly what records got destroyed by a fire that was in the records building. And those files that are missing, they have been very painstakingly reaching out to those families to see if anybody in the families, either the person, the record that the person the record was for, or any of their surviving relatives, happen to have copies of any of their military records, so they can build those files back up again. And it's noted when you go to look at those files that these are reconstructed files. They're not originals. And why they're not originals? Because they were involved with this file. So they know exactly, because of the filing system they had in place at the time, they know exactly which files are missing. And then you've got the 1890 US Census. There's a very, very small number that you can actually look up on the US Census, basically because the rest of it got destroyed by fire. So, you got to go to the 1880 and then go to the 1900. Hang on, was it 1890? Yeah, 1890. So you look at the 1880 and you look at the 1900, and then you've got to somehow fill in the gap. But if it's in a state like New York, or what was the other one? New York. Oh, what's the other one? There's a couple of states that would do census every would do on the year 5. US federal was done on the years ending in 0, and some states would do a 5-year one on a year ending in 5, or do a 10-year one, a state census on a year ending in 5. Like I know New York is one, because I look at the New York one quite often. Do they still do them? I don't know, but there's a certain amount of time that has to pass before they will release those census records to be seen in public. So if you are in some of those states that did the ones on the years of 5, then you only need to go to 1885 and 1895 to maybe help fill in the gap for the 1890 census that is missing. So you can kind of fill in the gap, and you have to put there that the census is missing, but they were recorded here on this and they were recorded here and there. So it's basically going to be, they were probably still there in that time if they were at the same address for both of them. It's an assumption, yes, and you put it in your notes, so that there's a tracking record of that. So, there are places where there are going to be holes in your records because of things that happened, be they natural or not natural. There are places where documents were destroyed. And so you'll come across those, and there will be explanations saying why you can't access this or what's going on with this. So some repositories will actually have listed, if you're looking for this, it's not available because of this. And if they have a really good filing system, they can say these files from here to here are missing because of blah, 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 blah. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, fires, time destroying the documents. That's another one, time. If they're not archived correctly, then not archived correctly, like in temperature controlled environments and things like that, you can actually lose documents because time may fade the ink that's on the documents, so you can't read them. So there's all sorts of things you got to watch out for. But we're gonna keep plugging away with this particular one till the end of the week. And if I haven't heard back from her and I haven't made any progress, it's going to get set. It's not going to get forgotten. It's just going to get set aside, and I'm going to work on the next one to see what we can find. But this one, I'll be taking notes along the way of what places I've gone to, where I've checked, so that I'm not going back over stuff going, oh, I need to go into the BDM files when I've already done the BDM files. And I've done the BDM files for New Zealand. I've done the BDM files for Australia. So we'll keep records on those so that I'm not repeating myself and spending time relooking in places I've already looked. So with that, we are out of here. What ones do you have where you have a brick wall? Maybe we can help you through that. Just feel free to reach out and contact me. Private message works really, really well, and we'll see if we can help you get over a stumbling block or give you some suggestions on places you can go and look and try out to see if you can find more information on somebody that you're looking for. And with that, we are out of here. We'll catch you guys